is talking.
Well, hello there, all you dorks. Welcome back to Port of Dorks podcast. This is actually our first time going eye candy. Usually it's just been our voices, but now you get to see us as we talk to you. Lucky you. We can't see you. Lucky us. So today, Alex, we haven't done this in a while, as seems to have been a trend between episodes. It's kind of longer and longer span of time. But we're busy, so that's okay. But we're back now, and we've got, wow, it's like a whole new world of things to talk about, Alex. That's how long we've been gone.
Whole new world of 6 things on your list.
Yes, 6 things. Could go a while.
Yeah.
All right. Which one do you want to start with?
I don't care.
All right, we're gonna talk Baby Driver. Been out a while. I know Alex is kind of behind the ball.
Well, yeah, because you usually get me into movies for free.
It's been a while. Like I said, I've been busy.
Yeah.
But set this up a little. Tell the lovely viewers your personal history with Edgar Wright movies.
I saw Shaun of the Dead, I don't know, probably like a year after it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed it. And then I watched his movies ever since. I watched, what was that? Hot Fuzz. When I was sick once.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
The good sick movies.
Yeah.
And then...
And I didn't know as much about movies then.
Yeah.
And I didn't appreciate them as much as I do now.
It was a while ago. Spaced. Watched Spaced.
Yeah, I never watched all of Spaced because you kept insisting that we watch it together, and then we just stopped watching it. But
you liked them?
Yeah. I had fun watching them, and they definitely influenced a lot of my, preferences in terms of visuals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in movies.
Yeah, his movies pop visually. They just pop, pop, pop. A lot of energy in his movies. Always have been. I'd be interesting to see the energy goes down as he gets older.
Yeah, you can see. Not that it seems like he's getting more nuanced as well, though.
Yeah. Well, he's getting better. Becoming a filmmaker. He's evolving.
Mm-hmm.
He's growing into himself, as it were.
Yeah.
And then what was after? And then we had Scott Pilgrim?
Yeah, I think that was after Hot Fuzz. Between that and
at World's End.
At World's End.
You like that movie?
Yeah, it's got serious third act problems, but I do like it. I think the first act is basically shot for shot the comic.
Yeah.
In a way that's kind of impressive. And the second act is still good. They start to break off more, and then the third act is it feels real jammed together.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of stuff to fit into a movie.
Yeah, it is. And the ending kind of fizzles out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of stuff I like about that movie. It's very high energy. It has really great visuals in a way that he doesn't really do in his other movies. Yeah, that's the first time I came into contact with Brie Larson.
I remember that. That was one of the first movies you and I saw together. I knew nothing. I still know nothing about Scott Pilgrim except that movie. But when that movie started, I was like, I'm gonna like this movie when it starts with the the 8-bit Universal theme.
Yeah,
that's still on my phone to this day. That's one of my favorite. Sometimes people do creative things with those logos. It's probably still my number one favorite. What was World's End after that?
I think so. I think so. The only thing I could think of that was between them is that he produced Attack the Block, but he didn't make that movie.
No, he didn't. That was
good though. I like Attack the Block.
I can't remember that guy's name.
I don't remember either.
It wasn't Ryan Johnson because he did Brick. I'm just thinking sci-fi. That's why I got it on that track. Yeah, he produced that, and then World's End, which, not a popular opinion, my favorite of the Cornetto trilogy.
It's probably not my favorite, but I still really like it.
Yeah,
I think it's a good movie.
I think as if I'm being as objective as I can, I think that bathroom fight sequence is probably one of the most fun sequences in the entire trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, they have... There's great choreography in that movie that they didn't have for the other films.
Yeah. And it really sets... like, watching that... I had liked Edgar Wright before, but watching that sequence, I was like, this guy can do action.
Yeah.
And then that sets the stage for Baby Driver. Alex, ow. What did you think of Baby Driver?
I like Baby Driver.
Yeah.
It's not the same as the Cornetto movies.
No.
And I think I've heard a lot. Yeah, I heard a lot of people saying that they were disappointed with it, but I think it's probably because they were expecting it to be like those.
Why?
But probably because that's what they know him for.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's most of the movies he's done. And I've heard a bunch of times people saying that it's first time without.
Oh, those two?
Yes,
yeah.
I don't know
Frost
Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. I have no idea why I blanked on those.
Sometimes it just
but I don't
happens.
think it is. I think Scott Pilgrim he did without them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the Frost and Pegg's influence is definitely not there. You can tell it's different.
Yeah,
but you can still tell it's Edgar Wright. Like the shots are really like just detailed in the way that like I don't see anyone else do, and comedy that's done through cinematography that you don't really see anywhere else. So the things like dialogue aren't quite as punchy, but like all of the visual stuff is just as good as anything else he's ever done. If not
the
better.
dialogue. I think this film is supposed to, more so than the other ones that he's done, take place in the real world, which might explain why it's not so over the top. But the dialogue's not as punchy. It still has that kick.
Yeah,
and it's still fun. A lot of fun characters. I think this is my second time watching this movie, and I still felt like, not that Ansel Elgort isn't great. I mean, isn't good in the role, but the stuff between him and his chick dragged for me again, because that movie is so punctuated with lively performances and charismatic characters that those two are just very mellow in comparison. And so, especially in the second act when they're building their relationship, I was like, okay, come on, let's get it over with.
Anytime he talked, it felt like flatter than the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Which isn't great because he doesn't talk a lot. So when he does talk, it should be important. And he doesn't accent it like it's important. Yeah.
But I still can't get over, because there are a ton of things that pretty much everyone will notice that are in time with the music, which, by the way, the entire movie is in time with music to some extent. With a couple of exceptions, I think, but those are still... The music is still nuanced, very specifically, for a reason. Anytime there's not a soundtrack, or anytime there's not, a song, and it's, a score, there's always the...
Ringing?
What is it? Yeah, there's always a ringing in some part of the song, which is really, I think, really smart and keeps you kind of in the mindset of the character.
It does that. This movie does that very well. Is put you in the position of Baby, who is a getaway driver for Kevin Spacey, who, I don't know about you, but I loved Kevin Spacey in this movie.
I haven't seen something I haven't liked Kevin Spacey in, honestly.
He's one of the best. The movie, we watched the trailer. I remember we did the trailer reaction, which you can go back and check out in our channel. You and I were like, this movie could be okay. And for me, it blew me away in terms of expectations.
I think that the trailer didn't get because it's a cut up at different scenes, it didn't get across the kind of pacing in the movie and how it's put together with music. I got more interested later when I listened to a podcast. Edgar Wright was talking about the movie, and they were describing how it was in time with music and stuff like that, and that got me a lot more interested.
And every trailer ever has music playing to it. So how are you supposed to convey that element is such a huge part of the movie.
Yeah.
I guess you really can't. So I don't think you and I were thinking that.
Yeah, not when we saw the trailer,
No.
for sure. But yeah, it's still, like, thinking back at... I mean, we just saw the movie, but just thinking back, it blows my mind some of the little tiny gestures that go just in time with music.
Oh, yeah.
There's a shot where it's the exterior of his apartment, and the telephone wires bounce with the beat.
Yeah.
And it's just like a single bounce during that shot. But it goes exactly with something in the music. It's crazy.
It is. It's to match that up, like, takes an eye and an ear from the director, of course,
and a ton of just patience. Yeah.
And especially patience on part of the editor, who has to put the images together in time with the actual music that we're hearing.
Because they had to have filmed that telephone wire, like, they probably got a ton of footage of that just so that they could have a bunch of different times of it bouncing.
Or they just played the song on set.
Yeah, but it had to be so exact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you play the song and then you get...
I mean, I know Edgar Wright will do things like that to get it just right and have it take forever. Because in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, there is a scene where Scott throws a package over his shoulder and it lands directly into the garbage behind him. And that was actually Michael Cera throwing the package. And it's on the DVD of him throwing it over and over again, and then finally getting it and everyone freaking out. Like, it looks like it could have been CGI, but it's not. He actually throws it in there.
I thought about that in the scene when after the warehouse, after they kill all the guys, and Jamie Foxx's Bats takes the grenade and he tosses it into the other car, and it lands perfectly in the cup holder.
Yeah, they probably did that a bunch of times.
I was thinking, I wonder how many times they had to do that.
Yeah.
If it is real. I mean, CGI is pretty good nowadays, but like you said, it's Edgar Wright, and he pays attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
And he wants it to be exact, and he's going to get the way he wants. What are some things you didn't like about the movie?
Like I said, there's some moments that are kind of flat. There's some character things near the end of the movie, especially with Kevin Spacey's character, that don't really feel like they make sense.
Oh, yeah. Would they just come out of nowhere?
Yeah.
That was one of my problems, too.
The story in general, I don't think is super compelling, but the characters are good, and yeah, I think just the pacing of the film and watching all the moments that line up with the music and stuff kind of makes it worth it, like more enjoyable.
Yeah. Best editing, for sure. That's my pick for Oscar. If that doesn't get the Oscar for best editing, the Academy is doing something wrong.
Like, think there's any chance they're not?
So, you like the movie?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
What do you give it? Grade it.
It's like a B.
B. A B.
Yeah.
What'd you give The World's End?
Like an A.
Oh. So you like that one more?
I'm pulling these out of my ass right now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed that more than Baby Driver. But I still really enjoyed Baby Driver.
Baby Driver is more than any of his other films. It is a film. It is more its crime thriller genre than something like Shaun of the Dead is a... Like, Baby Driver, you could fit that neatly, or more neatly, into a specific genre than you could with the other ones. Those other films are so unique and quirky and filled with personality and joy and passion from all of the people involved that, yeah, in comparison, this doesn't quite have the impact, I don't think. But it's still, shockingly to my surprise, it's one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't want to suggest that it's badly written.
No.
Either. It's like the its parts are greater than the sum.
Yes.
Like the opposite of
I agree,
the typical thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a bunch of different like things that are really, really amazing, but there's just a few things that kind of seem like they clog up the works a bit.
Yeah.
Like the movie is amazingly paced in pretty much every way. Like even like looking back, I feel like I went along with the way that Baby was thinking a lot. Mm-hmm. Like even like up to the point where I guess I don't know. Spoilers. We haven't really spoiled much so
far.
Spoilers.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
But the point that he like avoids killing anybody at any point, and then the point that he finally kills someone, like it makes sense and it feels right. And by that point, you'd want Jamie Foxx's character to just die because you hate him because he's a terrible.
He's so
terrible
good
person.
In this movie.
Yeah, he is. And that you can't believe that he hasn't died yet because he just keeps
running his mouth and threatening
keeps fucking
people.
Killing people constantly.
It's kind of hard to believe that someone who's like supposed to be so precise as a Kevin Spacey's Doc character in this movie is that once you could call it a mistake, but to bring that guy back, he's such a loose cannon that to me that sticks out as one of the plot flaws and one of the plot holes of the movie.
Yeah,
and I trust this guy.
I would have thought that. I mean, I understand Baby not thinking that he had any leverage at all, but I would think that he could have at least said, "I'm not working with that guy again."
Yeah,
you know, he could have at least pushed it like a little bit and seen what he got back. But you know, I can see why the character wouldn't do that. Because it seems like he
was his last.
Yeah, job. And he does as little as possible to ruffle any feathers the whole time up until the end, which I think works.
I was going to say something, then I forgot.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good movie.
Yeah. I liked it.
All right. Let's move on. Get rid of that. Boop. Ah, yes. This is one, we've kind of talked about this topic here and there as I've gone through it. Up until recently, I had never played Bioshock. I was not a huge gamer after the GameCube. Kind of fell out. Came back in at the end of the PlayStation 3 era. Played Last of Us.
Yep, that was mostly it, actually. I tried to get you to play a bunch of games that you didn't play.
But I did play Last of Us.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite games. Favorite stories, really.
You did end up playing a lot of stuff in one way or the other in the PS4, though, later.
And that brings us to Bioshock. The collection came out on PlayStation. Well, came out in general.
Yeah.
Remastered collection. I got it. I played 1 and Infinite. I'm playing 2 right now, but I skipped 2 because I thought Rapture, Columbus, going back to Rapture, and that especially with the DLC in Infinite, that would kind of ease me back into Rapture, and then I could play number 2 and kind of keep things fresh that way.
You didn't really expect Infinite to really fuck with your expectations so much, did you?
Well, I had known that a lot of people, as like excited as people were about it, and as much as a lot of people loved it, I heard, because after playing the first one, I really loved it.
Yeah.
And so I heard some things about Columbia that it wasn't as great.
Yeah. It's just in terms of details, but I mean, like, especially Burial at Sea. When I was done with that, I was kind of upset.
Why?
Because it doesn't make any sense.
Oh.
But I think about that multiple worlds stuff all the time. That's why I think I was telling you while you were playing it that the way that it probably makes the most sense, and I was trying not to spoil things, so I probably said it in a weird way, but is that it's another dimension from the one that you play in the first game, because it's so different and it doesn't make any sense. And the more I thought about it for a while, but I think I came to the conclusion that I kind of ended up liking it. I'm going off on a tangent now, aren't I?
No, you're fine. Keep going.
But because a lot of it didn't seem to make sense, and it still kind of doesn't. Like it's a weird time paradox thing. Like how, like why was that Booker exempt from getting drowned?
Mm-hmm.
Because that Anna in his timeline got her head cut off? Like why? Because he was still Comstock, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just shaved his beard and went somewhere else. So why did he not die with all the other Comstocks?
I don't know.
See, that doesn't make any sense.
But shouldn't there be one left, though?
Why?
Because there was one Elizabeth left at the end.
Elizabeth was across space and time at that point. So she existed outside of everything. But that's also the same thing when she dies and then she, like, pulls herself together into one thing. Also kind of doesn't make a ton of sense.
I know.
But
where does she come from when she dies in the second episode?
Yeah, that's something that's not... you kind of have to suspend your disbelief on that one.
Yeah.
But I think it's the idea that she comes in from another version of her from another universe, goes in there, and then when two of her are in the same universe...
But if there are other versions of her, that means other versions of Booker must exist still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, that's weird.
But I did end up, like, for a little bit I was thinking that the end didn't matter, because she saves a little sister at the end. But I was like, this is a different dimension. What does this have to, like, in the first game they all get saved anyway. But I guess it's that it was just about her saving one girl in one universe just because, I mean, I'm guessing because of the things that had happened to her with her father and that stuff. So I think when I look back on it, I like it as an ending of, you know, Elizabeth isn't around anymore. She's not this entity that could be around in potential sequels. And her story is totally closed, where she just kind of sacrifices herself just for something that's not this huge cosmic thing, but just saving this one life, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is nice.
And I kind of dug that about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so in terms of going back to the first one, the gameplay is fantastically fun. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the ambiance of Rapture.
The gameplay is the thing that people complain about the most.
Well, I had fun.
But I think the guns are punchy. That's something that, you know, that specific team that at the time I think was 2K Boston and then became Irrational. They make guns and stuff that are really punchy. They feel good to use, which is like the reason I haven't gone back and played 2 again. Because I played the first 5 minutes and the pistol felt like so weak and pathetic that I wasn't having any fun.
Yeah.
And I want to go back and play it at least to get to the Minerva's Den content, because that was add-on content that I never played, and it's supposed to be really good, and it's made by the same person who did Gone Home. So.
And it just feels, I don't know, just the environment. The atmosphere. It's creepy, but they strike that perfect balance between horror / it's not a comedy.
Yeah.
But there's a definite sense of humor to it.
Yeah.
And they walk that line very finely.
There's like a constant underlying feeling of like this dark irony about
that's a good
capitalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is in Infinite too. I don't think it hits quite as well. But yeah, there's this whole, like, especially because everything's broken down now, this presenting you with this idealistic paradise of capitalism and then showing you how putting anything to the extreme like that, like, doesn't work. Like, you can't have a capitalist wonderland because someone still has to do the dishes and mop the floors, and you're not going to have people who are like Ivy League graduates coming down to Rapture paying millions of dollars to be a janitor. And so you're not going to have just all these industrialists, and you're also going to have people of different views. Some people are probably going to want to be religious. Some people probably aren't going to like the capitalist society that they're in. And yeah, you see how it breaks down as if you pay close attention of this interesting story, like background story that you can find about what happened before, of how Fontaine was smuggling all this stuff in, and then Ryan kept trying to do things to quash that, and continually made a more structured government, and was more oppressive, which is the entire opposite of what he set out to do initially, until there ended up being this big rebellion, and by that point everyone was already doing all sorts of fucked up stuff. Fontaine had been kidnapping orphans, or kidnapping girls, and taking orphans and like turning them into these monsters, which people were fine at that time, honestly, which is weird. And then it's just a bunch of people who have these weird powers and have been doing stuff like changing themselves genetically and messing themselves up over and over again.
And then Big Daddies.
Yeah, things just break down.
Not really ever explained.
Yeah. I think it's, you become one in the end. I think the idea is that they're people who are, genetic, like changed, like biologically to a certain extent to attach to little sisters, but that typically, basically like neuters them mentally. They can't really think much. They're very simple, and pretty much all they do is protect the little sisters, or they'll take simple commands like building and stuff like that. And for some reason you get to skirt across that, like you can still think when you become a big daddy at the end, but yeah, I think that's the basic idea, is that they just found this way to force people to attach to like a thing, which I think was suggested that it's kind of connected to the mind control that you kind of underwent when you were a kid.
Well, you need, like you said, you need people to do the building and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And going back to what we were talking about earlier, the whole idea that you do something and you wipe out an entire like timeline or reality from existence, but then that coming back and you realizing that you can't do that, that's an impossibility to completely wipe one something from everything.
Yeah,
I've seen that explored in movies.
Yeah,
and stuff. So the exploration of why there is another Comstock. I guess that's why that doesn't bother me as much.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
And that kind of is, and I kind of felt like Elizabeth was coming to terms with that reality, and so she, instead of trying to affect the bigger picture, she was just trying to save this girl's life.
Yeah.
And make a difference in that way, and she couldn't make a difference. She couldn't make a lasting difference in the big picture, so she's going to save this one girl's life. And that, in combination with them exploring that she is the reason all this stuff happens in Rapture from the first game, is I went and I was having so much fun with these games. I was like, I can't believe they're not like, where's the fourth one already? It's been too long. I love this. I just want more. And then I played the DLC and I came to that realization, and the realization of all that other stuff that we just talked about. And I kind of sat back and I was thinking, we'll probably get one and then I'll probably play it. But this story is finished. We don't need, I'm so satisfied with what we got. I don't need a fourth one.
But if the events of Burial at Sea lead to the first game, why aren't there any tonics?
Tonics?
Yeah. Because in Burial at Sea, you have tonics. You have Bucky Bronco, and why aren't they around?
You have Bucky and Bronco in there?
Yeah. I think you have to go to find it, but you do. You have the tonics from, like, it's basically the exact same thing that's from Columbia. But that's not in Bioshock 1 at all. But they were selling it in this big department store.
Yeah, but in Bioshock 1, you play as Jack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
but
in
why
this
is it...
when you're Booker?
Yeah, but why is it just not... They should just... Those bottles should just be around somewhere.
Why?
Because they were selling them. Why are they
In
nowhere?
Rapture?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. I remember they were selling Old Man Winter.
Mm-hmm.
Because DeWitt, say something that... Because they exist in Rapture because of the communication the two were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of adapted it for his own... Like, did his own thing with it in Colombia.
Yeah,
Fink did.
Yeah,
and
but...
DeWitt is from Colombia.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe he brought some with him. I don't know, because
Now,
you're not playing
you don't have anything at the start of Burial at Sea. You get tonics and take them.
And maybe you just don't come across any. The city, Rapture is a big city.
But then you run into a character that's a big part of the back stories of, I forgot what his name was, the Asian stereotype guy.
The doctor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has a huge involvement in that, and sharing those technologies, right? Like, he's the one who adapts Colombian technology to Rapture.
Mm-hmm.
So why isn't any of that in Bioshock 1?
Well, maybe you just never come across it.
That's why I said the only way that I can make sense of that in my head is that Bioshock 1 is a different universe.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it means that, like, cosmically, Atlas was going to get out of that department store no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is fine, because, like we said, it was about Elizabeth saving that one girl, not about all the other stuff. Though they do suggest that it's kind of about all the other little sisters getting saved in the future, which
also,
she would have known. But
it is. I do believe it is a separate universe.
Yeah.
And constants and variables.
Yeah.
Right? Only a few things are constants. Many things are variables. Maybe that bucking bronco is just a variable that is different in this particular universe. It just goes through and it kind of explains things as they are in this Rapture.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily the one that we played through in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so from that you could say that something similar happened to cause come on. There we go. Something similar probably happened, but it wasn't the exact same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Constants and variables. Anyway, I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Endlessly intriguing.
Yeah, I think Bioshock 1's very professional.
It's my wife.
Oh, yeah.
Nope. I'm leaving this in. Alright. I'll see you soon. Alright, love you. Bye. Such a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
Fuck.
Consonants and variables?
Yeah. I still don't remember what I was saying.
Satisfying. Very satisfying games.
Mm-hmm.
Alright. Take that off the list. Kingsman 2. I won't go too much into detail because I don't want to spoil it for you.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Not great.
Mm-hmm.
Way too long, which is... it's only 10 minutes longer than the first one. And this one feels about half an hour too long.
I feel like the first one felt just a tiny bit too long, also.
2 hours plus. I mean, 2.5 hours is a lot to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Someone to sit through your stuff. Yeah, there's, it's just more, it's like they took the craziness of the first one and made a whole movie out of it. Plus the fact that Matthew Vaughn said his original cut was nearly 4 hours long. How the fuck do you do that? That's so irresponsible.
Yeah.
No, nobody is ever going to let you release a 4-hour movie. Nobody's going to come watch a 4-hour movie.
Yeah, at that point they'd be like, make it an hour longer and we'll cut it into 2 movies.
They offered that. They asked him if he wanted to. He said no. So he just cut like an hour plus out of this movie. Jeez. And it shows. And it's I don't know how you do that. So it's basically Matthew Vaughn being irresponsible. So that's Kingsman 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you can't really replace Samuel L. Jackson from that movie. He's great in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I love him so much.
Who's the villain in this one?
Julianne Moore.
Yeah, she's great.
She is great. Not in this movie.
No?
No.
Oh, that's
She
unfortunate.
grinds people up into meat and then eats them as hamburgers.
That's a weird,
It is weird, and it's never
villain
explained.
quirk.
It's like they just tried to make her quirky,
Yeah.
and then didn't give her any human qualities whatsoever. They just, she just does it, and she talks like this, and she's like, "I'm gonna get you." She's like fake, in Barbie mode the whole time.
Yeah.
And she's not a person.
It's weird.
She's like in an Austin Powers movie or something.
Like the cool thing about the first one is Samuel Jackson was basically just being himself, except the thing that made him a villain was that he was a billionaire who didn't really care about anyone else who wasn't rich. But otherwise he was pretty likable.
Yeah. And this one, she lives like in South America in the mountains, and she's kind of taking these like ancient native ruins and kind of from them built an old classical like 50s kind of town square. She just says she likes the 50s. That's never explained. And one thing I do like about the villain is she references the events in the first one when all the madness was going on. People killing each other. People's heads were exploding into rainbow dust. Celebrities. I can't remember what happening with celebrities. Anyway, in the madness, she says, in the madness of Valentine's scheme, it seemed like a crime not to do what she did. And what she did is in that madness, she kidnaps Elton John and makes him her personal like performance slave. So she references that, and she says it kind of seemed like a shame not to take advantage of that situation. It was kind of funny. It was cool. And Elton John gets a good F-bomb in there that just had me rolling. I was just laughing, and then he does it again, and then he does it again, and then he gets his own fight scene dressed as a chicken, and then he drops another F-bomb, and it gets to a point where I'm like, okay, I get it. This isn't funny. This is just stupid, and it's making the movie even longer. Please get away from me.
It's like kind of like a, not quite, because it's probably better than Batman vs. Superman, but like a situation like that where they must have cut out a ton of stuff, and the stuff that they cut out was probably the wrong stuff to cut out.
The story stuff that would have made more sense with what's going on. Would have explored characters better. But no, they kept that in. And not to say that this movie isn't good. I would watch this movie again, and throughout it is consistently funny. Like some really hearty laughs to be had at this movie. But then there's a whole like 15-20 minute scene where Taron Egerton and I can't remember the guy's name from Narcos, who plays one of the cowboys from Statesman. They're trying to seduce this girl because she is the girlfriend of the henchman who and they trying to track a planter in her, but it's got to go into her vagina. And they're trying to seduce her and have sex with her, and he gets this tiny little condom for the tip of his finger that has the tracker on it, and he's got to finger her. And it's
what if you have to track a guy?
I don't know. See, okay, I was listening to Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin, and this movie they were talked about the anal joke that kind of ends the first one, and how this one equally it tries. With stuff like that, Matthew Vaughn kind of tries to push the envelope about what the audience will accept or find acceptable. And he said, if you really wanted to do that with this movie, you should have made the person that they have to track and have sex with a guy. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And that would have made the scene the scene, they don't need it, and it goes on forever. But if you're going to include the scene and make it, push the envelope with it, making it a guy is kind of something that would at least make it worth it. Now, there is a little bit before that where Taron Egerton, the girl that he has sex with at the end of the first one, now, that's actually gone to a full-blown relationship in this one. And it's actually pretty nice. They have a nice dynamic, and you can tell they love each other, these two characters. I know it. And he meets her parents, which are, the king and queen of Sweden or whatever they are. And before he fingers this girl that he has to track, he calls his girlfriend and says, "Listen, I have to fuck this girl, but I'm not going to do it unless you tell me it's okay." And it's kind of a sweet moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes on for way too long, and it's not even funny when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
So a focus, a little in the wrong areas for a little too much. But I'll take you to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you would enjoy it.
Okay.
Sound fair?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. We get to go to your part where you get to take over. Tell me about Destiny 2 and why I should buy it.
I don't expect you to buy it. Like, talking about this at all before, it just seems to have brought up, like, vitriol about the first game out of you. Which there are definitely issues with the first game. And I've been hearing good things about Destiny 2, and I was reluctant to get it at first, but then I remembered that I actually played Destiny 1 a lot, and I had problems, but there were things that I enjoyed about it, so I was like, I'll check this out. And it's kind of like, it's a safe sequel, but it is an improvement still. The main, like, story stuff especially is
And we're back. Alex, why should I buy Destiny 2?
It's better than the first one? I don't know.
That could mean anything. I didn't care for the first one.
The biggest thing that I think would make a difference for you is that the main, like, story missions are actually a lot better. Like, it's more than just going to a spot and
shooting waves.
You
shouldn't.
It's more than just going to a spot and, like, standing and defending it for, a few minutes and then going to the next thing. There are actually, like, different gameplay things that they bring in certain missions to make it more interesting. Yeah.
And
yeah, he's in it, and he's in it a lot.
Oh,
they realized in the Taken King that people really love Nathan Fillion.
Just now?
No, the Taken King was the, like, really big expansion for Destiny 1, yeah.
But they're just realizing now that people love Nathan Fillion?
Yeah, I guess he wasn't in Vanilla Destiny that much.
Vanilla Destiny?
Yeah, that's what they call it when it's
vanilla with, like, a sprinkle?
No, because it's the basic thing. That's what they call the original release of something without any added content.
Oh, I thought you were calling it because it's bland.
Well, it
no
is.
Flavor.
But also, it's a term.
Do they have what's his name in it? The midget guy?
No.
No.
No, they with the Taken King, they updated Dinklage just right out of the whole game.
Why?
Because he didn't do that great of a job, so they needed to get someone else to play the ghost, and they didn't want it to be a different ghost, so they just brought in Nolan North, and Nolan North did all the lines for the original Destiny, and so it's all Nolan North now.
That's how long.
And he does a great job.
That's how long it's been for me. I haven't played that since that.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Well, I mean, Peter Dinklage seemed like he kind of phoned it in. Either that, or he doesn't seem like he's great at voice acting for some reason, because he's not very good in the Game of Thrones game either.
He's not good in Game of Thrones?
Not the Game of Thrones Telltale game.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the main missions are a lot better. It's closer to, like, Halo. It's not as focused and quite as, like, interesting, and the gameplay isn't quite as varied as something like Halo, but it's much closer to that than Destiny 1. The main experience will get you something pretty similar to Halo, but it's also an RPG, Mm-hmm. You ever play those? I know that you started the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't really pull me in.
Mm-hmm.
Shows its age.
2 and 3 are better than the first one.
I'm not going to play through the first one to get to those.
Yeah. Well, I didn't either. I pretty much just played. I think I played most of 2, and then I played 3 and Reach.
I don't think it holds up.
Yeah, I never really got into the first one. But I think after that, they refined some more things, and they get a lot better. Which I guess they kind of did, not as big of a jump, but they kind of did with Destiny 2. Destiny 2, with its improvements, there's also some not great stuff. Yeah. There's now loot boxes, which is, before you had engrams, which were
really Bungie.
There were loot drops, which you would get in the game, and then they drop random loot, which are still here. They're a little different. But now there's, you get bright engrams, which you can get from, once you get to level 20, every time you would level up normally, you get, it's like Overwatch. You're perfect.
Overwatch?
Yeah.
I love Overwatch. Have you played it recently?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so good.
But yeah, it's like Overwatch, where every level you'll get a loot box, or it's a bright engram, and that gives you something rare. And now you had shaders in the first game where you would just get a shader and you could apply it to anything. Now
one-time use?
Yeah, now it's one-time use for each individual piece of gear. So if you want to have your gear decked out with a rare shader, you're probably going to have to pay some money or grind a ton of levels out.
I don't really want to.
Yeah.
You're not selling me on this at all.
But all that stuff's not super important, but I would recommend not spending any money on bright engrams, because that's bullshit. But the game itself is pretty solid, and the strikes are good. The multiplayer, like co-op specific missions are really good. It's easier to level up and get more powerful than it was in the previous game. There's less grinding. There are a bunch of side missions, which are kind of on the quality-wise a lot like the main missions in Destiny 1. There's a lot of original stories, a lot of voice lines and stuff, and pretty good, but optional, right? Like they should be, as opposed to a bunch of the missions in Destiny 1 that felt like a filler and weren't really all that interesting.
So what I'm getting from this is that if you liked the first one, you like this one?
Yeah.
And if you didn't like the first one, you won't care?
No, I think if there were some things about the first one that you enjoyed, but had a lot of issues with its big problems, then you might enjoy it.
You know what I do enjoy?
What?
Other than Overwatch? Friday the 13th.
I know.
That game is so much fun. And they just came out with bathing suit packs. So now you can chase around scantily clad teenagers.
Yeah.
But in the cutscene that... You know the cutscene. The intro cutscene that they're just wearing their normal clothes, even if your characters are picked up.
That's weird.
I know it is weird. There's a lot of things in that. It's like, really? Like, do this thing right before you do something else. Like, you move... why are you bringing me clothes DLC when I'm still having trouble with this, or this thing is still this way?
Yeah.
But it's only, it was like $2.
You didn't get that with your Kickstarter?
No.
No? Man, they should give you way more than
everything.
That.
Everything. Just give me it all.
Yeah.
Got some new maps. Got some rain effects coming. New Jason.
Why didn't they just... Well, I guess it would have made people mad if they put it into early access. Yeah.
Alright, well, we're getting pretty close to an hour here.
Yeah.
Any last words?
Not really.
Me neither. It's good to be back. Alright, guys, thanks for listening to this new visual first candy. That's what I'm going to call it. Eye candy version of Port of Dorks podcast. I've been Jordan Peterson.
I thought you were going to say something.
I'm waiting for you.
Oh, okay. I'm Alex Kleinsorge.
Alex Kleinsorge.
Okay, good.
Alright, good. All our social media will be in the description of this video below. If you like this video, if you like the podcast at all, click the thumbs up for us. Subscribe. Let us know. A couple of hunks. If you liked this version better, or do you want to go straight to audio? I can't blame you. We're not that great.
Yeah, I know. I need to get a fucking haircut.
Alright, guys. And again, as always, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care. Say goodbye. What the hell are you doing?
I'm trying out a different hairstyle. I look like Cousin It from...